So I had a orthopedic. He was actually a orthopedic student, so he was getting his orthopedic PhD and all that stuff. And he came up to me to ask me about BBC and what I thought about it. And I'm a big believer, especially for acute injuries and strains, since it's helped me a lot with mine. I told him what I did, that I would do TB 500 in the morning and I'll do BBC at night with GH, and it worked miracles. Like it really, like night and day. I'd say it probably takes me 3 months to recover from an abductor pull, to
Mhm.
fully go into the gym and not think about it and be able to go, really hard, to a month and a half with BBC and TB 500. And I told him that, and he said that he believes in BBC, not so much the TB 500, but he peppers his muscle. So he does the injection, but he peppers all around it. And I've never heard of that. I've always done sub Q, or for my shoulder, I did, in my shoulder.
Yeah.
But, he said that it's not as systematic as people think.
Systemic.
It's systemic as you go sub Q. That he says that he finds it's through the research and what he studied in school, peppering the muscle all around it with little tiny little does a lot better. I never heard of that.
I think the issue for some people is either the place of the injury is something that they don't want to inject.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if somebody's like, yeah, I got a neck issue, a strain in my neck, they're not going to want to put something there. So I think
Yeah.
we are limited on like how acute we can get with the healing
Yeah.
process. But there is obvious anecdotal, report that even the systemic, sub-Q injection reduces recovery time by at least 20-30%.
Yeah.
So I think that in some cases that's the best you have. But if you can put it in the area, if that's like
Like as close as possible.
yeah, a post bicep tear surgery,
Yeah.
replacement
Hmm.
reattachment surgery, I think that would be something you could do. I think shoulders are pretty easy.
Yeah.
Um, I've had a quad, two minor quad tears that were obviously not like needing surgery, but they were enough to make me not train legs for about 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that knocked it down to about 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it really does help, but it is interesting and that they're learning about that stuff and trying to be open-minded to it because even BPC is not FDA approved. So
Yeah. Like, so I heard that it was, and then now it's not.
yeah,
Like,
something along those lines.
yeah. So I don't know. That kind of sucks because I'm a big believer in it, man. Obviously, get nicks and, little tweaks here and there. And if I didn't have something like that, like, I wouldn't be able to continue to keep pushing during a push phase, or, it kind of makes you not want to, if you can't recover as quickly from an injury and you're, pushing gear and food up, it's almost like you kind of want to chill out a little bit just until you can get going, but it's kind of a tool to use. So I'm a big proponent of it. And it's interesting that they're teaching that to the orthopedic guys in
Yeah.
school.
Hopefully our thought process behind these things comes to a better place. The only real issue is that not that maybe there aren't doctors, physicians out there that believe in this stuff, but more so um, the big companies are just not going to put enough money into running the studies on them the way that
Yeah.
they really should be ran
Yeah.
if they don't see that there's a large profitable
Right.
population for them to benefit from. But
Yeah.
yeah, because they a lot of these things work. I mean, HCG. I don't remember when. Hopefully, nobody quotes me on this, but it wasn't up until just a few years ago, I believe, that you could even get HCG from a fertility clinic here in the U.S. And a lot of people used to have to go, like we're in Texas, right? So a lot of people had to go down to Mexico to
Yeah.
get it to
Yeah.
conceive, just to have
Yeah.
a kid. So,
Hmm.
and our only methods were Clomid,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so but it is interesting. We kind of ran into a different issue this week too. So we talked last week about um, the factories, closing
Yeah.
and whatever, whatever. And I talked to Hacky about it a little bit more, and it kind of came out more so that these people were crossing over into manufacturing other things that we didn't want in our
Mm.
country, starting with the F word.
Yeah.
So. that's probably the big thing that caused these shutdowns, and it just so happened to impact some of the anabolic sources and some of the peptide sources. But
Yeah.
there's many factors. Just like over here, there are many manufacturers or compounding pharmacies that are within regulation and not getting in trouble by the government. So
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I think we'll be just fine when it comes to those kinds of things. But we did just recently hear that Testanate is something that we don't need to be messing with right now. It seems like it's a quality control issue. And I'm not sure, there was a shortage. Me and you have noticed that there was a shortage. It was getting harder to get. And now, just like with anything, when there's a demand for something, people will cut shady corners to try to get it out
Yeah,
or to fill that need or to say that they have something that they don't really have.
exactly.
Um, so we've encountered that, and I kind of put the word out to my guys and anyone that I know that hey, just hold off. If you're a guy that uses Testanate, just avoid it for a couple months until we get the green light on it again. But we've
Yeah,
got other options, and really, if you're like microdosing like we do, and it doesn't matter whether you use SIP or Sustanon, and a lot of people would use Sustanon in the case where they could just have to dose more frequent, at least less frequently.
yeah,
Um, they're like, well, I'm getting the fast and two mediums and a long, so I don't have to dose as much. We're still going to dose it very frequently.
yeah.
So
I
it
mean,
won't really.
that's kind of what's been happening with everything, right? Like from the beginning of all this, it was Primo was being faked. I mean, Primo was always there was always a high suspicion that it could be fake because it's very expensive and everybody wants it. But then it was like everybody switched to Masteron, and it's like, well, Masteron is now getting possibly faked, and then I don't know how far. I mean, it's obviously going down to Tessie, but hopefully EQ doesn't get faked because I'm not touching Andalones, man.
I think that, man, I think that better than trying to use any Angelone, we're just stuck with like test only cycles with or test and maybe a low dose trend or and
Yeah,
an AI. We're
yeah,
getting close to the point to where like if you don't handle EQ, which we've got ways to deal with it. If EQ is causing anxiety, we've got Solank. We've got if it's causing heart rate increases that usually are accompanied by anxiety, then we have beta blockers that could assist with that.
yeah,
So like we've got options to deal with the equipoise. We know how to manage our blood viscosity now.
yeah,
So, but if somebody just insists that they can't use equipoise, then just run a test only cycle with an AI at the appropriate dose to manage your estradiol. And I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with testosterone. And
yeah,
usually when I go higher testosterone and a little bit lower on everything else, I look better, feel better.
yeah, yeah.
So, but let's move on to some Olympia talk, and we can talk about, we've discussed a little bit about our opinions on, we'll get to like my post on Instagram the other day and kind of go into that, which helps us segue into the Olympia stuff. But
Yeah, yeah,
we're like, what'd you say, like 5 weeks out or something like that? We're getting
yeah.
damn close. And
Getting very
what's weird
close.
is, what's weird for me is, um, been following like C-Bum, like everybody follows C-Bum. I've been following him since he was an amateur in Canada, and he would still go deadlift like I don't know 6 plates aside and squat a whole bunch of weight.
Yeah,
He was an open bodybuilder because Classic wasn't around. So
yeah,
I've been following him for a long time since the early days of vlogs. It's just really weird to see. I saw a post from him today or yesterday, and it was a shot from last year. But it's something you would be expecting him to post right now, like going into the Olympia, and he's
hmm
not. Like he's not getting ready for the Olympia. So it's kind of a weird year
yeah,
where somebody who competes in classic, and even though I follow the open more closely, I compete in classic, so I like to keep an eye on it.
yeah,
That the whole like lineup is kind of off. Like it's just a completely
yeah.
different, not a completely different group of guys, but it's pretty different. You got Terrence coming back, and
Well,
Uri's just going into the open. It's just a weird, you know what I mean?
yeah, especially since like those three guys are thinking about going to the Open because
Yep.
Urs was very competitive. He was up there always in the top threes. Terrence took a year off last year. I think it was because of his gyno surgery, or maybe he wanted to get bigger. But it's Chris was the flag holder. He was the guy that brought, I believe, like the excitement and attention to the classic. So it's like the classic is kind of missing that person to carry the flags. I still think Mikey, he looks amazing. I'm a big fan of Terrence. I think he just will get outbeat by Mikey because of he's bigger and of stature. And Mikey's got some unbelievable proportions. It's like ridiculous. I saw when he did compete against Chris. The scorecard was kind of close. There were some shots that the judges believe Mikey won on. So it's just the hype that I feel like is around Chris is no longer there. And it's just we just need another big time popular classic guy to come
It
take
is
that
weird.
torch.
It's weird. Mike almost seems like he has like hollow bones because
Yeah,
how does he make, how does he make weight?
I don't know.
But and how does he stay? How does he stay in the category? So let's say he wins one, and everybody likes to win multiple titles in a division.
Yeah,
But what if he can't stay in the division? What if he's got to go up next year? And then it's kind of like after the Phil Heath era, it was just like different guy, different guy, different guy. For
yeah,
I mean, it's still going. We have a
yeah,
different guy every year. It seems like, and I
yeah.
wonder if that will end up with being the case with Classic, or if we'll have somebody like really step in and solidify their spot. But
Yeah, I wonder if like, it's becoming a pattern of these classic guys that are basically just outgrowing their class. It's they're they're getting developed so much muscle and they're having to cut so hard to get into their weight that they end up just like, "Screw it, let's just go up to the open or 212 or whatever they want to do. So it kind of leaves the classic. I feel like I don't know, maybe like the shorter, more dense guys. I don't know. I feel like the taller guys always go up to supers. I mean, how tall was Urs? And you know,
I think Urs was 5'10", maybe
yeah,
5'11", maybe 5'11", but it is it's a strange class. Well, the genetics in Classic Physique are phenomenal,
yeah,
and so when it comes to superior genetics, and you have shape and you have structure, and you have the genetic ability to pack on muscle pretty easily, it's like these are guys that would have been competing in the open in the 90s because they didn't have
yeah,
a choice.
yeah,
And they would have had, I don't want to say similar physiques, but like the shapes would have been similar, you know.
yeah.
Um, so it's
Um,
interesting with the introduction of the other categories. It's like some of the genetic freaks have the option to not go into the open and be supermassive, and so they fall into another one. And sometimes they hold themselves back by, Chris had to hold himself back for a couple of years because he couldn't put on too much more weight, or he'd be out of the class, and then or the way he would have to shrink down to make weight wouldn't be a look that would win.
yeah. And
So
didn't he have health issues too? He had a
yeah,
autoimmune disorder, so he couldn't push things
yep,
as much. So it was kind of like perfect for him to stay in that class.
yeah, and he
You
still
know?
he still is outgrown. He still would be outgrowing it. So
Yeah,
and those are just genetics. Like not, I mean, there's hard work, but the genetic ability to continue to pack on muscle tissue pretty consistently
yeah,
is part of the equation. So, but let's move on to like the open guys, and we have a show coming up pretty soon that Keone is competing in. I
yeah.
don't know what show was
Whew.
that he's doing.
Oh man. I was literally watching on Instagram right before we got on. I don't know, but man, I'm so pumped. I'm glad he decided to switch. I've heard he has been something that is like been unseen in bodybuilding. His just proportions and genetic and his aesthetics is ridiculous. So I'm really excited. I was hoping that he would make the move up to super one day, and bring back that crazy, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Larone aesthetic look. But it almost looks like he's even a step above them when it comes to the proportions. Like his tiny little waist, he got wide lats and crazy, quad sweep. It makes that tiny waist even smaller. And it's crazy.
Now, has he confirmed that is he just doing this open show, but he's going to continue to diet down into 12, or is he staying in the open right now?
I don't think he's confirmed, and I wonder if they're basing it on how he does at the show. If he knocks it out, maybe he does just commit to the open.
Yeah.
But he's a 212 champ, so he doesn't even have to do that show, does he?
No, he doesn't have to. And I think he just wants to see where he falls. I don't know. I don't see him unless I'm just missing the post. Here he is, edited 4 hours ago, 3 weeks out. Um, so I don't see him not doing 212. I think I saw one of his stories actually that said 3-time 212 champ
Yeah.
written on his. Yeah, there you go. So on his story. So I think he's still doing the 212. He's just jumping in this open class, kind of see where he stacks up, which does lead you to believe like next year might be, he might win
Yeah.
these three titles, and then he might be moving up.
Yeah.
So
I mean, do you see like on his frame, how much more muscle, like where would you put it? Like, because it looks like he's max. I wouldn't say max. You can always get better, right? But maybe more back density a little bit. But he has the proportions in his shoulders and it's super bubbly. But it's like, where would you put more muscle?
I think that he's pushing it just because of his height. He can't. Um, kind of like it kind of makes me think of not the physique, but Bonac being short.
Yes.
And if
Yeah.
you if you're that size and you go to any extreme, like I don't know, past what your frame looks like it would hold, or max
Yeah.
out that the proportions get lost and lines get lost. That's not happened to him yet. I mean, and Derek's not a super tall guy, and he's handling his size just fine.
Yeah.
But it is something to like consider that the things that make Keone are the crazy taper
Yeah.
and how everything just pops off the bone. So I don't think he needs to put on really any like inches, like size. But I think like, okay, here's a check-in photo.
The only
But I
thing I
think
can
like
see, go ahead.
I think graininess
Yeah.
and density, like you said, nothing that would translate necessarily to scale weight, but just a more solid, hard, dense tissue.
Yeah. I think the only thing that I think he might get exposed on is his hamstring to quad depth when he does a side chest or a side try.
Yeah.
Standing
Which
against a bigger stature dude, the bigger legs, like the Samsons, Knicks, their freaking quad to hamstring is ridiculous. So that's the only place I see he could get exposed. But he could build muscle there. He has plenty more room when the hamstrings, I feel like, for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm looking at a picture here too of a side chest, and it kind of just looks like, um, how some people have like high bicep tie-ins,
Yeah, yeah, it
and maybe it
does.
has like a high hamstring tie-in, so it doesn't come all the way down into the calf all the way.
Yeah, yeah,
And but that's just one shot. Let me see if I can find another one. Um, because standing up and from the side, the hamstring's pretty good. But I know what you're saying. Like when you sit down into a side chest pose, and that hamstring is not like wrapped up right against your calf muscle,
yeah,
it's not taking up all that space, then
yeah,
it does look like it's like underdeveloped, but it might be just a tie-in situation too. So he might have to tweak like how he presents it, how he pushes his back leg into it, or something like that to
yeah, yeah.
just kind of compensate a little bit. But he looks fucking. I mean, he looks crazy. So I
He
think
does, man.
where would you put him if he were to do the Open this year at the Open?
Gosh. Oh man. I mean, my heart wants to put him in the top five. I really do. I think he would knock out Hottie. I think. I mean, that would be tough. It would be more of like a shape thing, and Hottie's more muscular for sure. And Hottie comes chiseled to the bone
Yeah.
and shredded. So it would be a tough one, but it's kind of like I feel like the open is going more towards the aesthetic looking shape. And I think Potty he looks amazing, nothing against him, but he's kind of getting a little you can see the age a little bit in his physique. And I feel like he might put up a good fight. I just like Keon's physique. So personally, I put him in front of the more muscular guys.
Yeah.
Even Nick, I know he'll get beat by Nick, but in my opinion, I like that aesthetic look.
I
So
mean, I don't think that. I think. I mean, this is a. I don't know if this is a bold statement or not, but I think any placing between 5 and 1 is possible,
yeah,
because he is such a genetic freak and he grows. I mean, it wasn't up until what just a few years ago that he started actually using anabolics. He was
yeah,
competing naturally for a long time.
yeah.
So
This is
it's like
ridiculous.
it's like he's still kind of a baby. Like he's still is young as far as his exposure goes.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So it's just crazy. I mean, he really could he could be at any place in that top five, and I wouldn't even
Yeah.
be mad about it. You know,
Yeah, he's
just
kind of like a dark horse, you know.
yep,
Until he stands next to you, it's really hard to count him out.
yep. So, I did have I had a post kind of go crazy this past week on Instagram, and
Yeah.
it brought up some questions because I posted my cycle, very transparent, all that stuff, and and it was like a total of like 1.4 grams of gear. It was literally just test and primo, and then my GH, and
Yeah.
I've been using Lantus most of the year to help with the extra carbs and to not have to have this beta cell, function decline in my pancreas like throughout the off season like I normally would. I'd be able to continue to push and
Yeah.
preserve my own insulin production, and it's done that. But anyway, the post is there's a lot of negativity on there, about the cycle is astronomical. For 1.4 grams of gear, that's a lot of gear. Like, and so me and you talked about it, it's like this is not a lot of gear. I don't know where you guys get this information that it's a lot. Maybe it's a lot if you're in your first 2 years of bodybuilding and 2 years of using
Yeah.
anabolics. It's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably too much, but if you're a decent sized human being with some muscle on you,
Yeah.
you're gonna need some milligrams
Yeah. Yeah.
to grow. So you think you brought this up that you think a lot of the pros, whether it's now or retired, have just kind of created this misconception that dosages are super low and
Yes.
everybody like me and you is using way too much.
Absolutely. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. There's some probably genetic outliers, that don't need to touch a lot. Hyper responders, they exist. But I think a majority of pro bodybuilders, especially bodybuilders that take a good little while to come pro, and they have to push to do that. They are definitely up there taking north of 2 grams. I took J3 University, and I know exactly what John Jewett takes, and a lot of his clients, he shows it, and it's north of 2 grams. It's just not publicized, or it's not put out in the public and boasted about it. There's like this stigma going around the fitness industry that oh, this I only need to take a little bit to get this big, and if like it's a boast, almost like a trophy that they wear on their shoulder, and anything else, it's like you're going to kill yourself and you're going to live, you're not going to live till you're 40.
Yep.
It's like, guys, gear is something that progresses over time, especially if you have extreme goals. If you want to go pro, if I believe both of us have good enough of genetics to go pro, but to get the weight up, you have the gear is a variable that will go up over time depending on your goals. And sometimes it reaches north of 2 grams. I mean, I saw on J2 University, he had a guy running 3.5 grams, and
Yep.
he showed his blood work and everything was perfectly in line. And that's why coaches are so valuable, especially, when they've taken that much or they're experienced, they know how to manage your blood markers while taking that much. It is possible to do it safely. And, there is a risk. It's just what you want, right? Like, if you want to go pro and this is the amount that you need to take, it's like you're basically managing your blood markers the best you can, but you're also accepting a little bit of risk. And keep our blood markers well in healthy ranges while taking, high amounts of gear. And, we can continue to keep doing this and growing and being safe. It's just the stigma around the fitness industry is, oh, I only take this much and this is how big I am. If you take any more of that, you shouldn't be doing this or you have bad genetics or you're going to kill yourself. It's like, I don't know why they boast that. I really don't know why.
Yeah, I've posted about this before. In my opinion, this is my opinion on if we were to categorize what's considered a beginner cycle, intermediate, and an advanced cycle.
Yeah.
I've talked about this multiple times. To me, a beginner cycle is probably 500 milligrams or less total anabolic usage.
Yeah.
Um, there's probably not going to be GH in the mix. There's obviously not going to be insulin in the mix. and it's just usually a 1-2 combo, your testosterone and then something to manage your estrogen, and that's it. That's your
Yeah.
introductory. After you've learned how to manage testosterone itself alone, then the second compound would come in, and that would be your cycle. And that would be a beginner cycle. That's something that somebody could probably run 2 to 3 times
Yeah.
and see good growth out of it before they would have to advance up to intermediate, which I would consider north of 500 and as high as 1500. So
Yeah.
it's a bigger window there, but that it easily comes into a situation where you're on 750 test, 500 primo, and 500 mastron, or 500 another compound.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so you're right there. You're already at what 1250, and it's that's pretty damn normal. But if you're trying to, the national guys, they take a lot. Sometimes they take a
Yeah.
lot more than the pros do because there's a genetic discrepancy
Yeah.
that would allow some pros to get away with less.
Yeah.
And then for us to be able to compete on a level with a lot of guys who are a little bit more blessed than us, we have to push the numbers a little bit. And
Yeah.
yes, we have to do more mitigating of the health markers. We probably have to spend more money on health subs and taking the right medications to offset blood pressure, cholesterol,
Yeah.
and whatever else.
Yeah.
But to say that a lot of these pros, most of these pros, at some point were taking the 1.5, the 2, the 2.5, or even higher
Yeah.
gram of gear to get to where they are. And even recently, I don't know if it's an old video or a recent video, but I just saw it recently where Phil was talking about the reason he looked the way that he looked and the way that his skin texture was the way that it was because he never used very much stuff and he took his time.
Yeah.
And I mean, when you see that, of course, if you don't know, you say, "Yeah, see, Phil Heath, he's 7-time Mr. Olympia. He's just the gift. Why are you taking that much? You don't look like him at all."
Yeah.
And me and you want to look at this and say, "You're joking, right?" First of all, his nickname is the gift,
Yeah.
and the genetic discrepancy, the playing field of genetics is so broad in so many different areas of life. But bodybuilding is a great example of how different genetics can be. Um, First of all, you don't have that skin texture because you took your time with gear or because you took low amounts of gear, because you took this stack or because you ate this diet. Those are your genetics.
Yep. Those are your genetics.
Your genetics, and you applied the right things at certain times to maximize your potential and your growth. And you possibly did need less than us,
Yeah.
but it
That
doesn't mean that's the scenario for everybody.
Yeah, that's so it's so irritating when pros do that. Like I don't know, I see a lot of the legends, and I don't want to call them out or anything like that, but they talk about not having to take as much, or they're boasting, I only took 800 and I'm Mr. Olympia, five, 4 or 5 times. It's like, yeah, you're putting this false image out there, and then you hear about the ones that said, okay, like I wanted to beat the Ronnie Coleman, or I wanted to beat whoever Dorian, so I pushed it that off season and just came with all these side effects. It's like, okay, well, you have to understand that you can't just push it and then not mitigate the side effects with other things. You can't just, all right, I went 1500, now I'm going to go 2.5 and then not add in stuff for blood pressure or stuff for cholesterol or monitor these things. It's, well, one, that's a huge jump, but you need to keep track of those markers and use other tools to keep your side effects and keep the blood work in check, and not just blindly raise a dose just because you want to beat Ronnie Coleman. It's like that's the dumb way to do it. Um, and that's why a coach is invaluable, right? Like to show you how to do this properly. So, monitoring the blood pressure, the blood sugar, the blood work, you're getting your blood work every, 8 weeks and making sure your markers are in line to reduce, cardiovascular risk or your kidneys and making sure everything's in line. It's not just blindly just like, I took this much and because of that, I had super side effects and I went down, it's like, that's not really it, that's not an intelligent way of going at it.
Yeah, the ignorance of some of the comments on my post too of either not understanding that a picture doesn't tell you the full story. And
Yeah.
this is not me trying to say I'm better than I am. Like if my physique is mid, that's fine. This is the best I can attain right now anyway.
Yeah.
But to say like, there's no way you're 250 or you don't need that much gear, you're not that big. And I'm like, first of all, you haven't seen somebody in person.
Yeah.
How can you make these claims that they're not big or that they don't need that much gear? Like you clearly haven't, and I'm not the biggest person, but you clearly haven't seen me in person to know, okay, the picture is not telling the whole story. This person's bigger in real life,
Yeah.
or leaner in real life, or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we know that because we've met some people in person that we really looked up to, and when we meet them, you're like, oh damn, it's either they're shorter than you expected,
Yeah.
they're bigger than you
Yeah.
expected, they're leaner. It's never what you think it is on social media.
Yeah. And it's like when you be transparent and completely raw on social media, it's like these pictures aren't photoshopped. Guys, people Photoshop their pictures. They still do this on Instagram. And it's like you can't believe, that picture tells a story like you're saying, like, he doesn't look that big because on a picture. It's like and go in real life, and look at him. I promise you, you will always look bigger in real life. I promise you. Every single time.
And I'll never be never ever. You'll never catch me like Photoshop. I don't know how to use it,
Neither
but
do I.
it's insane that the transparency comes at a cost that I know I don't have the best physique, but if I go and alter that picture to enhance my physique, now I'm a fraud again. So
Yeah.
I'd rather just be open about the dosages. I'd rather be open about the physique. If it's a shitty mirror picture or if it's a good down lighting picture at the gym, whatever. That's the real lighting.
Yeah.
I didn't alter it. Maybe if it came in too bright from my camera, from my I
Yeah.
put the cord on.
Exactly.
Maybe I bring the brightness down, but that's about as much as I'm going to touch anything up, and the rest is me exposing myself to the world and you
Yeah.
to be judged. And so we know it's going to come with it. But I just think that the only thing that really irritates us is that these people have absolutely no clue what
Yeah, they don't.
pros do, what amateurs are doing. That what I'm doing is pretty standard. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
there might be some things that I experiment with that are slightly different. That's the point of experimenting is to step
Yeah.
outside of your, the normal status quo type of way.
Yeah.
But that's what we're trying to do. That's what me and you took this year to do
Yeah.
was to step outside of the box a little bit with ourselves and see if we can apply new methods or different um, combinations or whatever and
Yeah.
yield some kind of new result.
And then on top of that, man, like, instead of judging what we're doing and being like, oh, that's a lot or whatever, you think you're going to kill yourself, you look at actually what we're posting. And, you're more transparent than I am, especially with, blood work and stuff. How is he titrating his dose up, but keeping his blood markers in check? Like that should be more of what you think about and take away from these posts. And that's more of why I know you post like that, is because I would want to go to somebody who has research, has done these experiments, has titrated the doses up that maybe I have never touched, but is keeping his blood markers in check, keeping
Yeah.
blood pressure down, blood sugar controlled. How is he doing that? What is different than what is being told on TikTok or YouTube or whatever? Like, those are the important things you should take away. And not saying you should, screw your coach and come to us. I'm just mean like,
Oh yeah.
you should take away, like, okay, it is possible if you need it, and that's where you need to go, take away how he's doing it. That's why we're doing this, because we want to help. There'd be no reason for us to be transparent and tell y'all the doses. We just keep that stuff private and just be like all the other pros or all the other bodybuilders that don't talk about their cycle. We actually want to help. We actually want to show y'all how we did it safely.
Yeah.
Because
When I get accused or called like an influencer, just because you post a lot, I guess doesn't make you an influencer per se,
right.
or just because you have affiliate codes doesn't necessarily make you an influencer. I think it's probably part of it, and that's why it kind of gets confused. But the basis of my content is education. It's just
Mhm.
how I'm delivering that may come across as an influencer, but to me, an influencer is somebody who is just praised or followed or supported because of the way they live their life, the look or the lavish lifestyle or their personality Like they're not here to educate you. They're just living life, and people like to watch that.
Yeah.
So I see that more as an influencer than me, as I'm showing you and I'm being transparent and I'm letting you into my life, but I'm trying to do it as a form of education.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
anyway, so that's what's been bothering both of us mostly this week is, and I still have comments coming through on that post. It's just like absurd. I had one yesterday or today that was like, you shouldn't post your doses on the internet because some young kid is going to copy that and then, you know, and I'm like, first of all, I've got a million questions when I see this comment. How is a kid getting it? How is a kid getting access to this?
Yeah.
Two, what are they doing? Pulling their parents' credit card and
Yeah.
yeah, mom, I'm ordering some gear. Like that's not happening. But
Yeah.
two, I'm not just posting the dosages. I'm posting the health protocol right alongside it.
Yeah.
And I think people don't know what those things are.
Yeah.
So they just equate the whole thing as gear.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that this little section here is gear, and then all this stuff is to manage this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just not registering for them. And, I'm not trying to get in there and debate and educate the people that want to be shitheads. So I just kind of talk a little shit back and move on with my day. But the cluelessness, and it'd be like telling, I don't know, somebody who rides motocross, don't post videos of you riding motocross because some kid's going to want to get on a bike and he might
Right.
hurt himself.
Exactly.
Or
Like,
or every rapper in the world should not rap about the shit that they grew up in,
yeah.
just in case somebody else goes and does the same thing and robs a liquor store. Like that, people are allowed to talk about what they're going to talk about, and people are ultimately going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to post the health side of it. I can't show you the transparency and preach health if I'm not actually like doing the transparent stuff. Like if I'm not pushing dosages, how can I tell you that these things will manage those dosages if I'm not actually doing them?
Exactly.
Otherwise, I'm just guessing.
Yeah. Exactly. You know. I don't know. It blows my mind that people they instantly judge instead of going and clicking on your profile and seeing all the hundreds of videos because you hustle. Your videos. You have a lot of them and a lot of health videos. They just see that picture and they're like, "Oh, this dude's bad influence. He's gonna die at age 40 and blah, blah this or that." It's like, well, go investigate what he's posted. Like you're very go in depth on like all this stuff to keep your health markers together. I try, but you go above and beyond, and it's like, you just like I don't even know why they comment like that, man. It's
If
just
you
dumb.
if you just like swiped one, to the left or to the right, you probably would have found an educational video.
Yeah,
But you didn't. You just saw the mirror picture of the protocol, and you're like, this guy looks like shit. You're gonna hurt people. So
yeah,
um, I don't know. People are lazy. They don't do a little ounce of work, and
yeah,
it just drives us up the wall. But that's the risk that we take with
yeah,
doing what we do. But man, that's all I got to talk about today. So I know you got your boy over there, so
yeah,
go have some dad time.
yeah.
Maybe he needs
Well,
a snow cone or something.
maybe, man, before it gets too cold.
Yeah, about to close down.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah,
but
man, I'll talk to you soon, and then we'll get back doing this again next week. So
all right, man, sounds good.
I did later.
All right, bye.